A 19-year-old lieutenant stands alone on top of a burning tank destroyer. The vehicle could explode any second. 6 German tanks are advancing toward him. 250 infantry are closing in from 3 sides. He grabs the .50 caliber machine gun and opens fire. For 1 hour, wounded in the leg, choking on smoke from the flames beneath his feet, he holds the line. Alone. When the smoke clears, 50 Germans are dead or wounded. The rest are retreating. When asked after the war why he did it, he gave a 5-word answer.
They were killing my friends.
His name is Audie Murphy, 5'5", 110 pounds. The Marines rejected him. The paratroopers rejected him. They said he was too small, too young, too baby-faced to be a soldier. He became the most decorated combat soldier in American history. This is his story. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925, in Kingston, Texas, a tiny farming community in Hunt County. He was the 7th of 12 children born to sharecroppers who had nothing. Not a thing. The Murphy family moved constantly, chasing whatever farm work they could find. They lived in shacks with no electricity, no running water. The children slept on the floor. Some of his siblings didn't survive childhood. Audie's father was a ghost. He drifted in and out of the family's life before abandoning them entirely when Audie was still a boy. That left Audie's mother, Josie Bell, alone with a house full of hungry kids and no money. Audie dropped out of school in the 5th grade. He was 10 years old. He went to work in the cotton fields for $1 a day. But the thing that kept his family alive was his rifle. Audie Murphy became an expert marksman out of pure necessity. He hunted squirrels, rabbits, anything he could find. A neighbor once commented that Audie never missed what he shot at. Murphy's response was simple. If I don't hit what I shoot at, my family won't eat today. Then, on May 23, 1941, his mother died. Audie was 16. His father was gone. He was effectively orphaned, responsible for younger siblings he couldn't support. He placed his 3 youngest brothers and sisters in an orphanage. It tore him apart. He never got over it. When Pearl Harbor was attacked that December, Audie Murphy saw 2 things: a chance to serve his country and a way out of a life that had given him nothing but poverty and loss. He tried to enlist immediately. The Marines took one look at this baby-faced, 5'5", 110-pound teenager and turned him away. Too small. The Navy rejected him. The paratroopers rejected him. Nobody wanted him. His older sister helped him create a falsified birth certificate to make him look old enough. He tried the Army. They weren't enthusiastic either, but they were taking just about anyone by that point. They let him in. The boy Texas couldn't feed was about to become the deadliest soldier America had ever produced. After basic training at Camp Walters, Texas, Murphy was assigned to the 15th Infantry Regiment of the 3rd Infantry Division, one of the most storied units in the United States Army. He shipped out for North Africa in early 1943. What followed was a journey through hell that would last 27 months. Murphy fought in 9 major campaigns across 3 continents: North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, Germany. He landed in amphibious assaults, fought through mountain passes, cleared villages house by house. He contracted malaria in Italy. He was wounded multiple times. He watched his closest friends die beside him. And through all of it, he kept getting promoted. Not because of politics or connections, because the men above him kept getting killed, and Audie Murphy kept surviving and fighting harder. In Italy, his best friend, a soldier named Laddie Tipton, walked forward to accept the surrender of 2 German soldiers. They shot him dead. Murphy snapped. He grabbed a machine gun and charged the German position alone, killing every soldier in it. Then he turned the captured German guns on retreating enemy forces and called in artillery on their position. For that action, he received the Distinguished Service Cross. By October 1944, Murphy had earned a battlefield commission, 2 Silver Stars, and a reputation as one of the most fearless soldiers in the entire European theater. He was also shot in the hip, hospitalized, and developed gangrene that required surgery to remove muscle from his leg. Most soldiers would have taken a long recovery. Murphy was back with his unit within weeks. He was 19 years old, leading men 10 years his senior, and he had already earned more valor medals than most career soldiers see in a lifetime. But the moment that would define his legacy was still ahead. January 26, 1945. The Colmar Pocket, Alsace, France. The last piece of German-held territory on French soil. Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy was now commanding Company B of the 15th Infantry Regiment. His company had been chewed to pieces. The day before, they lost 6 of 7 officers and over 100 men killed or wounded attacking through the Bois de Riedveer, a frozen forest near the village of Holtzveer. The 18 survivors, led by Murphy, held their position overnight in foxholes they couldn't even dig because the ground was frozen solid. Reinforcements arrived by morning, bringing his strength up to about 40 men. 2 M10 tank destroyers moved into supporting positions, but the Germans were coming back with everything they had. Just after noon, 6 German tanks emerged from the tree line, accompanied by an estimated 250 infantry from the elite 2nd Mountain Division, troops specially trained in harsh winter combat who had been transferred from Norway. Their objective was the road that ran through Murphy's position. If they took it, the entire 3rd Division's position would be threatened. Murphy recognized what was at stake. He ordered his men to fall back to the tree line where they'd have cover. Then he stayed forward, alone. With a field telephone and his M1 carbine, he called in artillery strikes on the advancing Germans. Shells rained down, but the tanks kept coming. One of the M10 tank destroyers took a direct hit and burst into flames. Its crew bailed out and ran for the woods. Murphy emptied his carbine at the advancing infantry. When the last round was spent, he should have run. The smart play was to retreat to the tree line with his men. Instead, Audie Murphy looked at that burning tank destroyer. He saw the .50 caliber machine gun still mounted on its turret, and he climbed on top. The vehicle was on fire. Ammunition was cooking off inside. It could have exploded at any second. And there stood Audie Murphy, 5'5", 110 pounds, exposed to fire from every direction, gripping a machine gun. He opened fire. The smoke billowing from the burning destroyer actually worked in his favor. The Germans couldn't pinpoint exactly where the machine gun fire was coming from. Murphy poured rounds into the advancing infantry. A squad of Germans crawled through a drainage ditch trying to flank him. He spotted them, traversed the barrel, and cut them all down. For 1 full hour, Murphy stood on that flaming wreck and fought. German tanks fired at him. Infantry tried to overrun him. He kept shooting. He was wounded in the leg. He kept shooting. His men, watching from the tree line, couldn't believe what they were seeing. He later wrote about the moment. With all the crackle of firearms and big shells exploding all around, they probably didn't even hear my machine gun fire, much less guess its point of origin. When his ammunition finally ran out, the German advance had stalled. Their infantry was shattered. Without foot soldiers to support them, the tanks pulled back toward Holtzveer. Murphy climbed down from the burning destroyer and limped back to his men. He later recalled, "I turned from the Germans and never looked back. I was too weak from fear and exhaustion to care anymore." Minutes after he left, the tank destroyer exploded, blasting the turret where he'd been standing into the air. Murphy refused evacuation. He rallied his surviving men and led a counterattack that killed or wounded 50 more Germans. By the end of the day, the woods were secure. The road was held. He was 19 years old. On June 2, 1945, Lieutenant General Alexander Patch presented Audie Murphy with the Medal of Honor and the Legion of Merit. The war in Europe was over. Murphy was not yet 21. By the time he came home, He had received every military combat award for valor that the United States Army could give. 33 awards and decorations, the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, plus French and Belgian medals for heroism. He appeared on the cover of Life magazine. James Cagney, the Hollywood legend, saw the cover and invited Murphy to come to California. Murphy arrived with nothing but his boyish good looks and a story nobody could believe. He struggled in Hollywood at first, barely scraping by for years. But eventually, his acting career took off. He starred in 44 films over 21 years, mostly westerns. His biggest role was playing himself in the 1955 film adaptation of his autobiography, To Hell and Back. That movie held the box office record at Universal Studios for 20 years, until a shark came along in 1975.
But here's the part of the story that matters most. Audie Murphy came home from the war, but the war never left him. He suffered from what we now call PTSD, but back then they called it battle fatigue, or shell shock, if they called it anything at all. Most people just told soldiers to get over it. Murphy couldn't sleep. He kept a loaded pistol under his pillow. He had nightmares that made him wake up swinging. He became dependent on sleeping pills. He had violent mood swings and an explosive temper that had been there since childhood, but was made infinitely worse by what he'd seen in combat. And here's what makes Audie Murphy more than just a war hero. At a time when no one talked about the psychological wounds of war, when admitting you were struggling was considered weakness, Murphy spoke publicly about his PTSD. He was one of the first prominent Americans to do it. He called on the government to study the emotional impact of combat and to extend mental health care to veterans. He was fighting a different war now, and he was fighting it for every soldier who came after him. Murphy's personal life was turbulent. Financial troubles from gambling and failed business ventures, a divorce, another marriage, legal problems. The fame couldn't fix what the war had broken. On May 28, 1971, Memorial Day weekend, a small private plane carrying Audie Murphy crashed into a mountain near Roanoke, Virginia. He was 45 years old. Audie Murphy was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His funeral was attended by a future president, an Army Chief of Staff, and soldiers from the 3rd Infantry Division. His gravesite is the second most visited in all of Arlington, second only to President John F. Kennedy's. Murphy had one request about his headstone. He asked that it remain plain and simple, like any ordinary soldier's. No gold leaf, no special markings, just a name and a rank. The boy who picked cotton for $1 a day, who was rejected by every branch of the military for being too small, who placed his siblings in an orphanage because he couldn't feed them, who climbed on top of a burning tank destroyer and held off an army. When they asked him why he did it, he didn't talk about duty or honor or country. He said 5 words. They were killing my friends. Audie Murphy, 5'5", 110 pounds, the most decorated combat soldier in American history. And he asked for a plain headstone.